Hey everyone, welcome back. We're looking at macroeconomics again. We're looking at adding slightly more detail to supply and demand, which we've already seen. So we're looking at marginal benefit and marginal cost. So demand and marginal benefit. So here's what we already know about demand and benefit: that consumers buy goods because they derive benefit. Of course, the more consumers buy, the more total benefit they enjoy. You buy one more of a good, you get more benefit than you had before you bought it, right? And we also know that they receive less benefit from each additional unit they consume. So they have what we call decreasing marginal benefit. So I'll remind you of the little game we played with the Mars bars, that each time you consumed another one, you enjoyed it less than the one before, right? It wasn't as good. So that just shows the general concept. We have decreasing marginal benefit. So the more we consume, decreasing marginal benefit. So from here on, really, we can say that demand equals marginal benefit, what we're willing to pay for it, right? Okay, supply and marginal cost. The marginal cost curve, well, the supply curve is the marginal cost curve. Marginal cost being the cost of producing one additional unit. So the lowest price that producers will accept is their marginal cost. If it costs them $5 to produce something, they're not going to, if it costs $5 to produce one additional unit, then they're not going to accept anything less than $5 for that unit. So the marginal cost of producing things gives us that idea of the supply curve, of what firms are willing and able to sell for. So we'll go through this a bit more in class, so don't get too worried about it if you're not getting it right now. So why marginal costs slope up? So really, they will only produce the more costly units if the price also goes up. So think of fruit trees, right? If you've got a farm, if the price is low, you're just going to pick the ones that are cheap, right? You pick all the low-hanging fruit, right? That's why that's the saying, low-hanging fruit. You pick all the low-hanging fruit because it's cheap. Only once the price rises, is it even worth your while to get the more expensive to pick higher fruit, right? You might have to bring in more equipment, be it ladders or machinery, to get that higher fruit. So you're only willing and able to produce that if the price goes up. So that's why we've got that upward sloping supply curve. Okay, a different concept now, consumer surplus. So this is the difference between what consumers are willing and able to pay and the actual market price. Because we've got a demand curve here. We can see, I was pointing at it with my fingers, that doesn't work. We've got a demand curve here. So we know that there are consumers who are willing to pay much higher than the equilibrium price. Let's have a quick example of that. This is a good way of thinking about it. It's the surplus value that a consumer receives. So we'll explain that with the example, but imagine you're willing to spend $150 to see your favorite band. So if the tickets were on sale for $150, you would go, yep, boom, I'm paying it. But tickets might only be $100. So you might only have to pay $100 to see your favorite band. Therefore, you get surplus value. You are willing and able to pay $150, but you only have to pay $100. So it's like you win $50. So what we say here is your consumer surplus is $50. Now that's the way we see it on an individual level. In a whole market, there's going to be lots of consumers who are willing to pay more than the market price. So what we say is that this whole triangle here is consumer surplus. So we'll be labeling that on diagrams throughout the rest of the course. Okay. Producer surplus. Similar concept. This is the difference between what producers are willing and able to accept, their supply, their marginal cost, and the actual market price. So I'll give another example here. So you call out an electrician. An electrician, he could be really good at his job, right? He could do it for $120, right? But he knows that you call up any other electrician, they're going to say $200. So he would be silly not to charge $200. So he would be willing and able to produce this service for $120, but he charges the market price. He charges $200. So he gets surplus value. He gets producer surplus of $80 here. All right. So same rule applies, same concept applies here. Producers in a market are willing and able to produce for a range of prices at or below the market price. So we use that electrician, $200 to do something in the circuit boards, whatever he's doing. Some people might only be willing to do it for $250. They would only start to supply their services once price got high enough. Others would be willing to do it even if price was down at $100. So because there's a range of prices producers are willing and able to sell for, this whole triangle is producer surplus. Okay, this brings us to the idea of allocative efficiency. Now, there's a lot going on here. So allocative efficiency, this is something you learned probably first week or two of year 11. This occurs when resources are put towards their most desired use. In a market, we say this is when marginal benefit equals marginal cost, because at this point, both consumer surplus and producer surplus are maximized. So most desired. Consumers get a lot of value from it, producers get a lot of value from it. That's great. So we call this social surplus, consumer plus producer surplus. We get allocative efficiency when those are maximized, when social surplus is maximized, and that's going to happen at the equilibrium price. Right? So if price was at a different point, if price was here, right, we wouldn't get as much consumer surplus. We would get more producer surplus, but the social surplus would not be maximized. So we'll show that more in detail in class. But here's why social surplus, or why allocative efficiency is going to happen at the equilibrium price. Right, so if the price is over here, so it's causing quantity to be Q1, so we'll have a price up here, right? At this point, marginal benefit to the consumers is greater than the marginal cost to producers. So marginal benefit to society is greater than the marginal cost to society. So what that means is if we were producing more of this, then society would be better off. There are potential benefits that aren't being gained by society if we're producing at a point where MB, marginal benefit, is greater than MC, marginal cost. So we don't want this situation. That's no good. At this point, we always want to produce more. Okay, and on the other side of it, if we're producing a quantity out here where marginal cost is greater than marginal benefit, what this means is that each unit provides, well, it costs more to society than it provides in benefit. So from society's point of view, we don't want these extra units. We shouldn't be making them. So if the marginal cost is greater than marginal benefit, we should be producing less. And we need to get back to this magical point here, equilibrium, where we have allocative efficiency. Okay, so fair bit to take in. There's some complicated things in there, so we will spend a bit of time on this in class. Don't worry about it. We will get our heads around it, but we'll have our notes down in front of us, so we'll be all good. All right, see you later.